going live on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so something's not working with LinkedIn, but we can start here.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our first webinar on the Build, Operate, Transfer model. I'm your host, Felician, and I'm today here with Alpha Jolo, who will go into more detail about the first phase of it. We will explain the business case, why it makes sense, and who would be the biggest, which companies would make the most out of it. So, Alpha, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Felician. Good morning, afternoon, evening, and welcome to Maxima Consulting's BOT webinar. This is the first in a series of 3. There'll be 2 others. Today we'll focus on the build phase, and then the next 2, obviously, the operate and transfer phase. So who's talking to you today? So my name is Alpha Jallo. I'm the Global Client Account Manager at Maxima. And Felician, unfortunately, he's come down with a poor voice. He heads the marketing initiatives in Maxima, supporting us in the sales department as well. So I've been 20 years in this space, actually longer. I think my first BOT was back in 96 in Poland. We just won a contract to install the mobile network for Polkomtel, and I was part of the team that was building out the office in Warsaw. So that was my initiative and initiation, and been through several others. So let's get on with today, what we're looking at. So as I said, we're going to cover the build part of this this initiative, delving into the planning, design, infrastructure. So we have a model that you'll see, which details the components that need to be addressed. The majority of the components, there's always things that come up. And then at the end, I'll walk you through some of the challenges and advantages that we've seen in this model across the engagements that we've had. Okay. So let's get going. So this is an extremely high level view of what build, operate, and transfer is. The times will vary. In the build phase, that really depends when, as a vendor partner, you get engaged. Is it upfront in the visioning phase? Is it once that's done and you want to be part of that location strategy, or is it after that phase? So that varies. Obviously, the operate phase itself is when you're delivering and what you've contracted as services, and that's really depending on your client partner and yourself, how long that is. That's the business case. That's when you're earning your revenue, and obviously it's the cost phase for the client. So it's a mutual discussion there. And then the transfer phase really is should not be onerous. It should be really a transfer of that legal entity from yourself, vendor partner, back to the client. So that's the easiest form. Obviously, there's more contractual regulations around that, then it'll take longer. But generally speaking, I think we're looking at 18-month engagement would be something that's kind of a benchmark you can take. Okay. So let's go down to the next one. So this is the model that we have, and I'll walk you through that. If we take a look at the top here, so the different phases, what you see here in blue, this is the build phase. Okay, that is the build phase here. And then we're moving into the operate phase and then transfer. We'll talk about those later, but we'll walk through here now as we go. So we're in the phase. These are the activities in the phase, and then the deliverables that come out of that. And this part, the GCC vision and roadmap, I've experienced several ways where the client is invited and initiate the partner from day one, and they've been actively part of the process of visualizing what the end state looks like, part of the location strategy. And then I've also been part of engagements where we come in at a later stage, and really looking to build the project to deliver on the services in the target country. So the visioning phase, obviously, where are we going, what we're trying to achieve, and what do we anticipate as the ultimate outcome? What do we want from this service? Some clients, this is part of their strategic initiative, where they have a fixed percentage of the staff that they want to be recruited externally from their home base for whatever reason. One reason could be a potential lack of talent or lack of available talent in their home base, or too highly competitive. But setting that vision and making it concrete so everyone is on the same page is kind of key to that. When we look at the operating model, now, to me, that's one of the essential components that need to be addressed up front. If you think about it, you've got the vendor partner, you've got the client, and then you also have the new entity. So you've got three businesses trying to steer in the same direction. How they operate, impacts the success of this engagement. So up front, it's important to establish what the method is going to be. So as an example, if you're an engineering company and you want to build a workforce outside of your country, you're not used to anything to doing that, who sets the process, who sets the practices for how the local company is going to operate? Is that the vendor? Is that the client? Is it going to be left to the local company to decide? So agreeing that operating model up front is a key element, I think, for future success. When we talk about the location strategy, a lot of the times companies would come to us for advice. Sometimes they would actually do that themselves with another third party, but it's key. Obviously, the key element of that is the talent there that I need to service my end clients to make this initiative successful. So I think establishing that upfront again is essential. If you're looking to the roadmap, I think that's really key for both parties there. So the client and the vendor. Where is this going? Is it a one and done? So I'm going to X country, and that's the only place I'm going, or is it part of a program? You go to X now, and then Y later, and then Z in another few years' time. So having that roadmap in place, I think it's great for being open, but it's also great for business, because what it does is enables the vendor to say, okay, I realize this is a short-term engagement or a long-term engagement, and I can create my business model around that. Obviously, if it's a longer-term roadmap, you'd anticipate your vendor would be part of that process with you, and share some of that business that they're getting over a long period, some of those the benefits from a pricing perspective to you. So my message really here is that if you establish your vendor partner and get them involved as early as possible in this visioning and roadmap, get them to understand it is truly a partnership you're building that needs to be realized. It's not a transactional engagement. When you're operating together in the operate phase, there's going to be lots of challenges that you need to address. Small things that need to happen, but you need to have a common playbook or common understanding. So have that same vision, establish it as soon as possible, and then move on to the next phase, which is or the next part of the build phase, which is the establishing the practices for HR, establishing practice for the talent acquisition, IT, understanding where your business partners are going to come from in the local country, and then building that ecosystem to support the initiative. So program management obviously is a key element of that, and that needs to be. And the thing about you need to understand, things are going to change. Things are going to evolve. Things are going to be unanticipated, but in the planning, you need to be flexible. Once you've got that flexibility in there, you can modify the plan, and you can also realize what the impact on the plan potentially could be in the long term with regards to what's a critical path item or elements. So in this part of the build, you're looking at managing that program. You look at also establishing contacts in your target country for third-party support or business support services. So you see the legal and regulatory, finance and tax. So those two, as that example, are the ones that we tend to, really initially rely on a partner that has that local expertise to bring that knowledge to help de-risk the engagement. For longer-term engagement, as it goes on, then we will take ownership of that as an in-house service. But you may want to consider initially that the legal and regulatory and the finance components are outsourced to a third party, another partner. Depending on how you engage with the facilities, you may need to also consider the IT infrastructure. A lot of target countries that we've worked in, they've had a great structure to attract companies into the country and to provide the free trade zones, and within those free trade zone you have facilities that actually provide you with everything you need from a IT perspective. So IT infrastructure build out may be part of the solution. It was when we went to Mexico and India. It wasn't so much in Costa Rica where we worked with a partnering facility and the infrastructure was there already. You need to obviously make sure that the finance systems and the infrastructure is in place. What we tend to do, if there's a preference on the client side to utilize their system, I think that helps in the transition phase later. But we bring all our systems into play, all cloud-based. So there's a lot of compatibilities there as well. We talked about facilities or the workspace. We contract with a leasing provider to provide that. One of the current engagements, we are in a temporary space, and now we're all started to look for a more permanent space for our client. So take advantage of the various options there are to get you started in a new country. So the workspace is important, and then HR, obviously, talent acquisition, and the business support is what we bring to the table. So you can imagine that a client has an expertise, maybe in aerospace or AI or engineering. They don't have an expertise in building out an operation in a new country. So you're leveraging both skill sets there throughout the engagement. And we generally look at managing the HR, managing the talent acquisition, and then managing all the support activities that are needed to ensure the business is run. And then the client manages their client-facing activities, be it engineering or whatever. So that's where the partnership model goes again. Okay.
So, Alpha, we have one question on the chat. Like, how do you pick the location?
There is one overriding element that we've seen: talent. So it's obvious that you're not moving to another country, you're not opening an office in another country because maybe you like that country. But from a business perspective, it's because you want to have more talent. You're having challenges in securing resource staffing. So that's why you want to move to that particular location. Another key element would be the fit. So the business environment of that country, how does that work with the way you normally work? You know, is it more laissez-faire? Is it more hierarchical? So what type of business environment do people are accustomed to working in, and does that fit your needs? And then I think the third part is, you know, it's just a cultural fit with your practice as a company and what you can anticipate the staff will bring to the table. So I mean, I think those three components are key elements in the location definition, but definitely the availability of talent is the key components of that.
Thank you.
So let's move on now. So I think you'll have this. It's not rocket science. It's the attention to detail. It's the historic understanding of what potentially could accelerate the success, or what potentially could, you know, hold up the success. So that's the key elements that an experienced vendor will bring. So they'll bring this methodology to life with their knowledge. So let's take a look at some of the advantages. We talked about one just a minute ago. The key advantage is the access to talent. Some industries are extremely challenged at the moment inside their own country, and they just they need to have more staff to address not only the projects that they're working on that are expanding, but to address potentially new projects. So that's what we see as one of the key advantages. It gives you access to talent that you normally wouldn't have, or at a much more tolerable competitive situation. A build, operate, transfer also de-risks establishing a new office. If you're not familiar with establishing offices outside of your country, then there's lots of things to consider. We talked about the regulatory environment. We talked about the cultural norms. We talked a little bit about the business environment. So, you know, all those things, you know, if they're alien, they may be alien to you, and you just don't want to address those. You don't have the skill set. So you bring in a partner that has done that before across different countries, and they help you to de-risk what you're looking to do to establish that office in the new location. So talent, de-risk, and then I think another unsaid advantage, once you've built the practice, once you've staffed the practice, once they're operating, you've got an entity there which is good to go. If you've done your partnership correctly, then the policies, the procedures, the practices of that new entity are easily transferable into the parent company. And that's one of the key elements of that early visioning phase. Together, how does HR look? How does talent acquisition look? How does IT look? Ensuring that you have a common understanding of what you want that new entity to be, so that when it transfers back to the parent company, it's a smooth operation. So I think you do it well, a seamless transition should be there. That's a key element of an advantage, because you've done all the preparatory work to make sure that new company is a 95% reflection of the parent company. So it's easy to transfer over. And the way we do that, really, there's no additional cost. It really is just leveraging, transferring that business entity from one owner to another. Okay, so there's probably other advantages you can see. So cost efficiency as well. There is accelerated market entry, but the talent and the de-risking to acquire those talents in a new country, I think they're the two big ones there. There you go. So some of the key points. I can't really emphasize enough. Our partnership is critical. It's from day one. It sets the tone of how the engagement is going to go. If it's in the mode of a partnership, everything that goes going forward will be so much easier. You're working together. You've chosen the right company that you want to live with, that you can live with. So that's the most critical thing. And from an acquisition perspective, with regards to talent, it's a far easier model to explain to the to potential new staff that this company is here. They're here for the long term. You're safe investing your future here. If it's a short-term gain you're looking at, just come in, build an office, do some work, and maybe after 2-3 years, move off. Now, people are very skeptical of that. They've seen it in certain countries, and they want to be assured that you're there for the long term. So if you're there for the long term, talent acquisition becomes an easier messaging. Okay, so let's move on a little bit here. So some of the challenges, and let's walk through these. And again, I think if you take a look at some of these challenges, partnership is a key element of alleviating any potential issue. So long-term alignment between yourself and between the client. If you have the same view, same vision, same goals, then you're going to be far more able to weather any storms that will happen, be them small or whatever. We've talked about talent. We talked about location. It seems obvious that you must choose the location that has the talent that you're looking for versus any other reason. Okay. A good partner will let you understand what those cultural barriers are, in the way they were, in the perceptions of time, in the perceptions of hierarchy, in the perceptions of structure, etc., etc., etc. It's not one culture is better than the other. It's just they're different. That's why we have these different countries. The schemes of those countries are different. So be aware of the target country. What are the cultural norms they're working, and how could that potentially impact the success that we were looking to have? Vendor selection obviously is a key element, and it's a partnership. I would suggest it's a partnership you're looking for. If you want a vendor-client relationship, then there's going to be a gap. The information flow is not going to be, it's not going to be complete. Maybe there's not a complete sharing of information. And if you're not doing that, you're not one. I think some of the challenges that people face is if there's a client and if there's a vendor, and that's the nature of the relationship. Any assumptions, any issues are not out in the open. so they're not being addressed until it becomes a challenge. So you need a client that's looking for a vendor partner. You need a vendor that's looking for a client partner. That they're both able to flex and and slightly modify, understand what's needed to be successful. So and being able to dialogue and trust the person, the people on the other side, as having the same outlook, having the same desire, having the same objectives as yourself is extremely important. And we talked briefly about the regulatory environment and what the way we handle that. And I said we actually bring a third party entity to start off with, so that we build up our knowledge. If it's not a country that we're familiar with, we'll build up our knowledge. We'll partner with them, and then we'll take over that particular function. So these are just some of the challenges that may be faced in the build phase of the BOT staffing strategy. So an example. So it's current. We are in Costa Rica. We are actively in the operate phase. So the build started from January of, well, technically speaking, I say started December of 23. The contract was signed. We were engaged, moving through to March of 24, when the contract was formalized. Also from January through to March, May, there was weekly discussions around HR, weekly discussions around transfer agency, examination of different processes in those particular areas, and agreement on the common process that you'd like to take forward to that new target company in Costa Rica. And that's the way we did that kind of design visioning phase. And then we started to actually recruit, once the contract was signed in March, through to the first staff member coming on board in July of 24. And that was a great day that we had the first member. And then by the end of July, we'd had 5 staff members. And it was good. So collectively, the client and ourselves, we went to Costa Rica with those 5 people on board. We had a week onboarding of their staff. It's onboarding, cultural assessment, cultural discussions, and just getting to know each other. So that was there. There are clear metrics that we have in this operate phase. They cover HR, they cover talent acquisition, it covers the financial elements, it covers IT. So having the metrics in place is really key. We report on those as part of a governance model every month. So this project has been and it's been successful. We're actually at 45 staff members there. I think we're actually going to grow beyond the 60. The client wants us to be bigger, so it's going to be about 80 or so there. But this is an active engagement. It's going well. We're currently planning for that transition, and it's a success. We could talk more if you want to reach out to me. I'd be happy to discuss more, obviously, with client confidentiality. So a little bit about us, and then I'll end up. We've been established 30 plus years, started off in Boston, and from Boston, we've moved to India, Poland, Ireland, myself in the UK, and of course, Costa Rica. I think workforce services is a key element of what we bring, but we also deliver some IP around cloud, around migration services, around infrastructure as a service, be it databases, storage, etc., and around site reliability engineering. So we've moved from a company focused on workforce services into some specific IP through a company purchase, and then we're recognized as a great place to work, and I think that kind of just emphasizes our focus. Our focus is on making sure that not only are the staff enjoying where they're working, but because of that enjoyment, they're able to relate that to what they do with the client. So really, this is what I wanted to leave you with. So the BOT model, in essence, helps you to acquire talent that you probably may not have in your existing location. It helps to de-risk the acquisition of that talent in the new country. And if you have a strong partnership with your vendor, then that helps to reinforce not only the business case through mutual win-win, but also reinforce the strategy and emphasize and more likely for success going forward. So I'm Alpha. This is what I wanted to say. You can reach me anytime. I'm sure your contact details will be forwarded. Happy to discuss more, and hope you have a great rest of your day. And
Yeah, so if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. I've seen one coming through that is, isn't BOT just another form of outsourcing?
No, not at all. So I'm trying to try and emphasize the level of engagement between the client and the vendor is far higher. The inclusion and the utilization of the client tools practices is highly recommended in the BOT model to make that transfer easier. And you're basically setting up the culture, you're setting up the practices, and you're setting up the structure of the organization to be so that when you transfer back to the parent company, it's seamless and it's easy. So it's an office of the client versus an outsourced working environment. So they're fundamentally different.
Awesome. And how long does a typical project take?
And that depends on you and the client and the business model. The one I'm engaged with now, that's a 2-year engagement from start to finish. I would imagine 18 months gives both parties, at least 18 months gives both parties a reasonable business case.
Awesome. Yeah, so I don't see any more questions. We will send later the recording to your email if you want to rewatch it or get some more insights. Yeah, one more question. Do you provide the employer of record services?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's essential. In Costa Rica, we own that company. We established it through a parent company in Delaware, and we are the employer of record for that company. To facilitate establishing operations sooner, we actually collaborated for 1 month with a third-party EOR company. But as soon as we established the local office, we became the EOR. So we are the employer of record.
Awesome. So no more questions coming through. But if you have any, we'll connect with you probably on LinkedIn later. We'll send you the recording. And thank you for joining us on our first webinar. It was a test run, but there will be more to come where we go more into, deeper into the other phases of the BOT model, where we explain how the operate phase looks like and how the transfer phase looks like. That is, that goes into more details, and there are many moving parts in that. So thank you very much and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.